Welcome back to Beyond the Plot, where unforgettable stories are brought to life through immersive narration. Picture a world bathed in eternal synthetic sunshine, a pristine utopia where every day is a triumph.
Right.
Every citizen is a masterpiece of design, and the concept of sorrow simply does not exist. But what happens when the absolute paragon of this perfection, a doll designed to never change, suddenly asks a question about her own mortality?
It changes everything.
It really does. This is the story of a perfect being who begins questioning the flawless world she has always known, and it propels her on a journey of self-discovery that challenges everything she believes about identity, purpose, and the terrifying, beautiful nature of reality.
Yeah.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into the narrative of the screenplay Barbie, written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach.
It's a genuinely fascinating narrative to unpack. We're stepping into a story that it masquerades as a vibrant, almost cartoonish fantasy.
Right, the bright pinks and all that.
Yeah. Exactly. But very quickly, it reveals itself to be this rigorous exploration of existentialism, societal structures, and really the heavy, glorious burden of human consciousness.
Now, a quick note before we jump into the deep end here. Because this narrative heavily explores themes like, patriarchy, feminism, and toxic masculinity, it's important to establish our mission for this deep dive.
Absolutely.
As your guides, our goal is to impartially unpack these sociological concepts exactly as they are presented by the writers in the narrative. We aren't here to endorse a specific political worldview or take a partisan side.
No, not at all.
We're here to explore the mechanics of this story, examine the characters' motivations, and understand why a story about a plastic toy sparked such a massive global conversation. So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to just leave your preconceived notions at the door and step into this world with us.
That's really the perfect mindset to have because, well, this story demands that you look past its plastic surface.
So let's establish that surface. We begin our journey in Barbie Land.
Yeah.
I want you to imagine this sprawling, hyper-saturated ecosystem.
Just aggressively pink.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The sky is always this painted, cloudless blue. Everything is constructed of smooth, unyielding pastel materials, and I mean literally everything. There are no actual elements here.
Right, there's no real fire.
No real fire, no actual water flowing from the showers. It's just a plastic suggestion of water. There's no wind to mess up a perfectly sculpted hairstyle. And the architecture is entirely open concept. The dream houses don't even have walls.
Which is such a brilliant visual metaphor because privacy implies that you have something to hide. And in Barbie Land, there is nothing to hide, nothing to fear, and honestly, nothing to be ashamed of.
Right.
And that physical transparency, it directly mirrors their psychological state. It's a society built entirely on the premise of a completed mission.
What do you mean by completed mission?
Well, the foundational belief, like the absolute core truth held by every single citizen in this world, is that they have already solved all the problems of the real world.
Oh, right. They genuinely believe that by simply existing perfectly, they have cured humanity of inequality and strife.
Exactly.
They have Barbies who are Supreme Court justices, Nobel Prize-winning physicists, Pulitzer-winning authors.
And from their perspective, because a Barbie can be a doctor or a president in Barbie Land, they think every little girl in the real world is growing up in a post-patriarchal, completely egalitarian society.
They think they fix it for us.
Yeah, they believe their utopia has a direct sort of magical resonance with our reality. And this creates an environment of relentless, friction-free optimism. It's a world where the concept of struggle hasn't just been minimized, it has been biologically and environmentally eradicated.
Wow. And at the absolute center of this frictionless universe is our protagonist, stereotypical Barbie.
The icon.
The icon, yeah. She isn't a specialized Barbie. She isn't the president or the astronaut. She is the baseline. She is the idea of Barbie made manifest flawless, perennially cheerful, and utterly content with a daily routine that never, ever varies.
Never.
She wakes up perfectly refreshed. Her hair never tangles. Her toast pops out perfectly browned without any heat. And she literally floats gracefully from her dream house down to her car. Every day is the best day ever. But then we have Ken.
Yes. Good old Ken.
Yeah.
Now, Ken's existence is fundamentally tied to Barbie, but in a deeply tragic, entirely unbalanced way.
How so?
Well, if Barbie is the sun of the solar system, Ken is merely a planet desperately hoping for some warmth. His entire mood, his whole sense of self-worth on any given day is predicated entirely on whether or not Barbie looks at him.
Ouch.
I know, right?
Yeah.
He has no purpose outside of her gaze. His job is simply beach. Not surfing, not lifeguarding, just standing in the sand, hoping to be noticed by the woman he was manufactured to accompany.
I want to pause on this setup for a second. Think about this, listener. Barbie Land is essentially a perfectly curated museum exhibit. Or maybe an even better way to think about it is like a sealed snow globe. Inside the glass, the scene is permanently festive, the snow falls in a predictable pattern, and absolutely nothing ever decays.
It's totally static.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have to push back on the appeal of this. If every single day is completely perfect, if there's never a challenge, never a heartbreak, never even a change in the weather, doesn't perfection eventually lose its meaning for the people trapped inside that snow globe?
You're hitting on the core philosophical paradox of utopia right there.
Right.
Yeah, the psychological comfort of an unchanging, flawless world is incredibly alluring. Humans naturally crave security, predictability, and, the absence of pain.
Sure.
But consciousness requires friction to generate meaning. Without the possibility of failure, success is just a mechanical inevitability.
It's just a default state.
Exactly. Without sadness, joy becomes a flat, unvarying baseline. You see this in literature all the time. Characters, much like actual people, will actively resist looking beyond a comfortable facade because the alternative is the chaos of free will.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
A predetermined role, even a restrictive one like Ken's, offers an immense amount of safety. It demands nothing of you other than conformity to the script. Stepping out of that role means you are suddenly responsible for your own destiny.
Which brings us to the moment that snow globe gets rattled, because you can't keep it sealed forever.
Nope.
We see Barbie living out her perfect daily routine, the choreographed dance parties, the synchronized smiles, the absolute absence of consequence. It's entirely frictionless.
Until it isn't.
Right. Right in the middle of a massive, joyous, highly choreographed party, the disruption hits. Out of nowhere, without warning, Barbie stops dancing and asks a single question out loud to the room.
Oh, the big question.
Yeah, she just asks, do you guys ever think about dying?
It's the ultimate record scratch.
The music literally stops.
Yeah, because in a world defined by eternal youth and infinite plastic perfection, the mere concept of death is an alien virus. It is completely incompatible with the operating system of Barbie Land.
And the fallout is immediate, yet initially kind of subtle. The next morning, the perfectly knit sweater of her reality begins to unravel. She wakes up groggy.
Which never happens.
Never. Her breath smells bad. The milk in her fridge has expired. Her morning toast burns. The imaginary water in her shower is suddenly freezing cold.
Yeah, the illusion is breaking down.
And then the ultimate horror for a being designed to stand perpetually on her toes, her heels touch the ground. Flat feet.
The flat feet. These are the physical manifestations of her existential dread. Her environment, which was previously a flawless reflection of her perfect internal state, is now reflecting her internal chaos.
Hold on a second, though. I need to challenge the mechanics of this.
Okay, go ahead.
Is asking a single question, just wondering about mortality for one fleeting second, really enough to unravel an entire reality? It seems incredibly fragile to me.
It is fragile.
Like finding a single loose thread on a perfectly knit sweater. You pull it just a millimeter, and suddenly the entire structural integrity of the garment is compromised. It falls apart in your hands. How does that happen so fast?
It happens so fast precisely because the world is artificial. A natural ecosystem can absorb a shock, right? It can adapt to an anomaly.
Sure.
But a synthetic, perfectly engineered utopia cannot tolerate anomalies because it has no mechanism for dealing with the unknown. What Barbie experiences here is the existential spark.
The existential spark. I like that.
Yeah, it's a profound psychological threshold. Once you begin to question your own reality or the purpose of your existence, you take an irreversible first step into self-discovery. You cannot unthink a profound thought.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Exactly. Once a mind expands to accommodate existential doubt, to accommodate the terrifying reality of an ending, of death, it can never shrink back to its original naive state. The illusion of eternal perfection is irrevocably shattered the exact moment you realize it is an illusion.
And once that thread is pulled, Barbie is completely unequipped to fix it. Her friends, the other perfectly functioning Barbies, are utterly horrified by her flat feet.
They literally gag.
They do. And they don't have the tools to help her because they haven't experienced the spark themselves. They realize immediately that this is a contamination that cannot be solved with a change of clothes or a positive affirmation.
Right.
She needs guidance from someone outside the perfect norm. So she's told she must visit the oracle of this world. She has to go see Weird Barbie.
Weird Barbie is such a crucial archetype in this narrative. Every journey of self-discovery requires a guide who exists on the fringes of society, outside the established norms.
Right, so we travel with stereotypical Barbie up a jagged, asymmetrical hill to a house that absolutely does not fit the pastel, open-concept geometry of the rest of the town.
It's totally off-kilter.
Yeah, and there we meet Weird Barbie. She is the physical embodiment of chaotic play. Her hair is jaggedly chopped off, colored markers are scribbled across her face, her clothes are mismatched, and she exists in a permanent state of doing the splits.
It's hilarious, but also kind of tragic.
It is, and she explains the mechanics of what is happening. She tells Barbie that the barrier between Barbie Land and the real world has been breached.
The veil is lifted.
Exactly. The human child who is playing with stereotypical Barbie in the real world is projecting her sadness and existential dread onto the doll. The only way to stop the changes, to fix the flat feet and the burnt toast, is to travel to the real world, find the girl, and heal her sorrow.
It's the classic call to adventure.
Yeah.
But what is truly fascinating here is the messenger delivering that call.
I was just thinking that. Why is it always the outcast? Think about it, listener. Why is it the one society deems broken? The one who has been played with too hard, who holds the deepest truths about how the world actually works?
That's a great question.
Right, like, why isn't President Barbie, or the Nobel Prize-winning Barbie, the one with the answers to the universe?
Well, because the elite in any society are the ones who benefit most from the illusion. Therefore, they are the most blinded by it. Why would a Nobel Prize-winning Barbie question a system that constantly rewards her?
Oh, that's a brilliant point.
Weird Barbie is the oracle and truth teller because her physical imperfections represent a closer proximity to reality. She has suffered the indignities of a chaotic, real-world child. She has been burned, chopped, and drawn upon.
She's seen some things.
She really has. And that trauma, that literal break from perfection, gave her insight. In literature and myth, the seer is often blind. The prophet is often an outcast.
Wow, yeah.
Weird Barbie is the only guide capable of forcing stereotypical Barbie to confront uncomfortable truths because Weird Barbie isn't trying to uphold the facade of Barbie Land. And so she presents Barbie with a Matrix-like choice.
The pink high heel versus the brown sandal.
Exactly. The pink high heel represents a return to ignorant bliss, and the brown Birkenstock sandal represents the harsh, uncomfortable journey into reality.
And hilariously, Barbie initially chooses the high heel.
She just wants to go back to sleep.
She literally says she wants to go back to sleep. But Weird Barbie forces her to take the sandal. The journey is not optional once the spark is lit. So Barbie packs her bags, and much to her surprise, Ken stows away in the back of her convertible.
He just can't be left behind.
He simply cannot bear to be separated from the object of his entire existence. Together, they cross the threshold. They leave the safety of Barbie Land, traveling through this highly stylized, almost theatrical montage of snowmobiles, rockets, and tandem bicycles, until they finally cross over into a reality they are entirely unprepared for.
Yeah.
They arrive on a sun-drenched boardwalk in Venice Beach, Los Angeles.
This is the moment the narrative pivots sharply. They step out of the realm of the ideal and into the realm of the real. And the friction we talked about earlier, it hits them like a freight train.
The shock is immediate and visceral. We really need to look closely at how they both react to this new environment, because it is wildly different.
It's a total dichotomy.
Yeah. For Barbie, the real world is an absolute sensory assault. She immediately feels a profound, deeply unsettling sense of exposure. People are staring at her, but not with the polite, admiring glances she's used to back home.
No, it's a very different kind of look.
They're looking at her with aggression, with mockery, and with an uncomfortable, objectifying intensity. She feels an emotion she has never, ever experienced before. Self-conscious fear.
Yeah, that undercurrent of threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She realizes that she is not viewed as a symbol of female empowerment here. She's viewed as an object. But Ken's experience is the exact opposite.
Yes. For Ken, Venice Beach isn't an assault. It's a revelation.
Ken suddenly realizes that the men here are walking around with a sense of innate ownership. He notices the subtle and overt ways men command space, the way they're listened to, the way they're respected simply for existing. He walks into a corporate building and feels a surge of unearned confidence. He goes to a library and discovers books on a concept he has never heard of before. Patriarchy. He sees images of men on horses, men in boardrooms, men conquering the world.
It's a brilliant and sharp contrast in environmental conditioning.
Wait, I want to dig into the why of this contrast. It's like two people looking at the exact same abstract painting, but seeing entirely different images.
Right.
How is it mechanically possible that the exact same environment, the exact same street in Los Angeles, terrifies Barbie to her very core, while simultaneously empowering Ken so dangerously?
It comes down to how external environments interact with internal identity, and specifically historical deficits. We have to look at Ken's baseline.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Ken has lived his entire life in a matriarchy where he was essentially a second-class citizen. He had no power, no property, and no purpose other than being an accessory to Barbie.
Right. His whole life was just waiting for her to look at him.
Exactly. When he enters the real world, he discovers a societal system, the patriarchy, that finally offers him a sense of importance and power simply by virtue of his gender. He gravitates toward it naturally because it fills the massive void of purpose he has carried his whole life.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, for the first time in his existence, he feels seen and valued, even if the system he's adopting is inherently flawed and toxic.
He's an empty vessel that finally found something to fill it, while Barbie, on the other hand, feels the crushing weight of a world she thought she had already saved.
It's devastating for her.
She realizes the central tenet of her existence, that Barbie-solved feminism, is a complete lie. The world is messy, unjust, and deeply complicated. She is overwhelmed by a low-grade undercurrent of violence and sadness that simply doesn't exist in plastic.
Yeah, the real world is heavy.
This existential crisis leads her to her next crucial step.
Mm.
She has to find the human who is playing with her, the one transmitting all this sorrow across dimensions.
And this introduction of the human characters is what grounds this fantastical journey into a deeply relatable emotional reality.
Right, so Barbie tracks down the owner she believes is projecting these feelings. She goes to a middle school and finds Sasha, a sharp, cynical, incredibly articulate teenager.
Sasha is ruthless.
She is. Barbie approaches her, fully expecting a joyful reunion. She expects to be hailed as a hero. Instead, Sasha brutally tears her down. She tells Barbie that she hasn't empowered anyone. Sasha argues that Barbie represents impossible physical standards, rampant consumerism, and that she has been making women feel bad about themselves for decades. She actually calls Barbie a fascist.
Which is quite the leap, but you get her teenage angst.
Oh, completely. The verbal assault is so intense, so shattering to Barbie's entire worldview, that Barbie does something impossible for a doll. She sheds a single real tear.
It's the breaking of the idol. Barbie is confronted with the unintended consequences of her own existence. She thought she was a beacon of hope, but she's being told she's a monument to inadequacy.
But the twist here is that Sasha isn't the one projecting the existential dread. It's Sasha's mother, Gloria.
Yes, Gloria.
Gloria is an employee at Mattel, the toy company that manufactures Barbie. She's a working mother, navigating the immense complexities of middle age, feeling disconnected from her teenage daughter, and silently drowning in the mundane anxieties of real life.
Just a very real, very stressed human being.
Exactly. In a moment of nostalgic melancholy, Gloria had found Sasha's old Barbie toys and began drawing them, projecting her own very adult fears, thoughts of death, of failing, of physical imperfection onto the doll.
Gloria is really the emotional anchor of the story. She represents the deeply relatable human struggle of fading potential and the crushing weight of daily life.
Absolutely.
We need to look at how that psychic connection functions. It's not just magic. It's an allegory for the relationship between art and the artist, or the consumer and the product. Gloria's complexities, her struggles, and her incredibly nuanced emotions have literally rubbed off on the perfect doll through a psychic, creative connection born of desperation.
Wow, that's a beautiful way to phrase it. Meanwhile, Ken, armed with an armful of library books on patriarchy and a newfound sense of supreme entitlement, decides he has learned everything he needs to know about how the world should work.
He's fully radicalized by the library.
He really is.
Yeah.
He completely abandons Barbie in the real world and heads back to Barbie Land to spread his new gospel. So we have this incredible divergence in their paths. Ken goes back to change the utopia, while Barbie is taken in by Gloria and Sasha, who actually rescue her from the Mattel executives who want to literally put her back in a display box to maintain the status quo.
A literal box.
A literal box, complete with twist ties. But I have a question about Barbie's evolution here. Does meeting actual flawed humans like Gloria and Sasha make Barbie more human herself? Or does it just make her painfully, acutely aware of her own artificiality?
That's a fantastic question, and the answer is that it does both, which is the sheer agony of growth. Interacting with Sasha and Gloria holds up a mirror to Barbie's artificiality. When Sasha critiques her, Barbie feels the sting of being an empty symbol. But when Gloria expresses genuine warmth, vulnerability, and maternal care, Barbie experiences something entirely new: empathy. Empathy is the bridge between artificial perfection and human reality.
I love that.
By engaging with their struggles, Barbie begins to learn that true meaning isn't found in being a flawless, static symbol on a pedestal. It is found in connection, in shared sorrow, and in the messy, unchoreographed struggle of actual existence.
And this incredible internal growth Barbie is experiencing is starkly contrasted with the absolute external destruction happening back in her home. Barbie, Gloria, and Sasha travel back to Barbie Land, expecting to find a safe haven from the chaos of the real world.
But they are in for a shock.
A huge shock. They cross the threshold to find that Ken has completely overthrown the society. Using the patriarchal concepts he absorbed in the real world, he has initiated a hostile, rapid-fire takeover.
The speed and efficiency of Ken's coup are terrifying, yet sociologically it makes perfect sense given the environment.
The transformation is jarring. The beautiful pastel dream houses have been transformed into what Ken calls Mojo Dojo Casa houses.
Which is just an incredible name.
It is. They are now complete with swinging saloon doors, leather recliners, and flat-screen televisions playing loop footage of horses running.
Just horses everywhere.
Exactly. The entire aesthetic has shifted from cooperative, elegant pastel to aggressive, performative masculinity. But worse than the redecorating is what has happened to the citizens of this world. The female Barbies, who were once Supreme Court justices and Nobel laureates, have been entirely brainwashed.
Yeah, it's really unsettling.
They are now willingly serving in subservient roles, acting as cheerleaders, bringing the Ken's beers, and hanging on their every word. They have lost their autonomy entirely.
I want to unpack why they succumb so quickly because it perfectly illustrates how easily societal structures and norms can be overhauled when a new aggressive ideology is introduced.
How does it happen so fast, though?
Well, especially in a society that has never had to defend its values because they were never previously challenged. The Barbies lived in a friction-free utopia. Therefore, they had no psychological immune system to fight off Ken's ideology.
Oh, a psychological immune system. That's fascinating.
Right. They had never debated their rights. They simply had them. When Ken introduced a system that demanded subservience, they lacked the critical thinking tools to resist it.
When Barbie sees this, she experiences a complete and utter emotional crisis. She is devastated. Think about how this would feel, listener. It's like coming home to find someone has not only completely redecorated your house in a style you absolutely despise, but they have also legally changed the locks, thrown out all your clothes, and rewritten the rules of who is legally allowed to own the property.
It's a total violation.
It is. Barbie collapses. Literally. She lies face down on the carpet and refuses to move. She feels her identity, her home, and her purpose have been entirely erased.
We are witnessing a character hitting existential rock bottom here. She has lost the illusion of Barbie Land. She has learned she is resented in the real world, and now her only sanctuary has been corrupted.
She has nothing left.
Exactly. The profound emotional devastation of losing one's sense of place and community in the blink of an eye is paralyzing. She cannot logic her way out of this depression. Her perfect brain is short-circuiting. She needs a lifeline.
And that lifeline comes from the most human perspective possible. We reach the absolute turning point of the narrative. Barbie is immobilized by despair. Gloria, the human mother, looks around at the brainwashed Barbies, looks at stereotypical Barbie crying on the floor, and something inside her just snaps.
She's had enough.
She really has.
Yeah.
She delivers this impassioned, incredibly raw speech about the impossible, completely contradictory expectations placed upon women.
This speech is the ideological anchor of the entire story. It is the thesis statement made manifest.
Gloria stands there and maps out the inescapable maze of womanhood. She points out that you have to be thin, but you can't say you want to be thin. You have to say you want to be healthy.
Right.
You have to be a boss, but you can't be mean. You have to lead, but you can't squash other people's ideas. You have to love being a mother, but you can't talk about your kids all the time. You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaining. She outlines a system designed so that no matter what choice you make, you are always wrong, and it is always your fault.
What she is describing so eloquently is the cognitive dissonance required to survive under a system of impossible double standards. She is outlining a trap where the walls are constantly moving.
I really want to pause on this because it's such a powerful moment. But I have a question about the origins of this trap. Are these contradictory expectations purely self-imposed by human society, or are they somehow built into the very fabric of how we design our perfect, idealized worlds, like the original Barbie Land? Because even in Barbie Land, before Ken took over, they were expected to be perfect without ever breaking a sweat. It was a different kind of pressure, but still immense pressure.
That is a phenomenal observation. The original Barbie Land was its own kind of trap. It was a matriarchy, yes, but it was a matriarchy based on frictionless perfection.
Right, there was no room to just be average.
Exactly. The Barbies were flawless because they were plastic. They didn't have to balance a career and motherhood because they didn't have children or fatigue. Gloria's speech highlights the tragedy of applying the standards of plastic perfection to flesh and blood humans. But more importantly, by verbalizing these shared struggles out loud, Gloria utilizes immense psychological power.
And we see that power act as a literal physical antidote. As Gloria speaks, a nearby Barbie, who was brainwashed into serving drinks to the Kens, suddenly blinks. The fog clears from her eyes. The sheer logic, the painful resonance of Gloria's words snaps the ideological spell over Barbie Land.
That is the crucial insight of this scene. Naming an oppressive system is the first necessary step to dismantling it.
Naming it gives you power over it.
Precisely. When an ideology is invisible, when it is just the way things are, it controls you entirely. But when you name it, when you articulate its absurdities and contradictions, you strip it of its power.
Wow.
Gloria's speech awakens the Barbies because it provides them with the vocabulary to finally understand their own subjugation. You can't fight a ghost, but you can fight a system once you map its borders.
With the spell broken on one Barbie, they realize they have the weapon they need. They begin a covert operation, kidnapping the brainwashed Barbies one by one and having Gloria deliver her speech to deprogram them.
It's like an ideological heist.
It really is. They pull them out of the trance of Kendom, and once the Barbies have their minds back, they have to reclaim their society. But how they do it is fascinating.
Right, because they don't do it through violence. They don't build weapons.
No.
They do it by exploiting the inherent flaws and insecurities in the very system Ken established.
Exactly. And I feel like we really need to highlight the brilliance of this strategy. They use the Ken's need for validation against them. The Barbies pretend to be subservient again. They stroke the Ken's egos, ask them to explain things they already know, and then subtly pit them against each other by showing interest in rival Kens. This manipulation plays directly into the fragile masculinity the Kens have adopted.
It's so strategic.
And it erupts into this massive, hilariously dramatic beach-off where all the Kens go to war with one another. They're completely distracted by this absurd performative battle, entirely abandoning their posts at the Capitol. And while the Kens are busy fighting for dominance, the Barbies restore their constitution and reclaim Barbie Land.
It is a brilliant tactical victory. It exposes the fragility of a system built entirely on posturing and ego, but the narrative doesn't stop at merely returning things to the status quo.
No, it goes much deeper than that. Because once the dust settles, once the Constitution is restored, Barbie goes to find Ken. And Ken is having a complete breakdown in his Mojo Dojo Casa house.
Yeah.
He is sobbing, throwing a tantrum, realizing he is lost.
Yeah, he's crushed.
But he isn't just crying because he lost political power. He is crying because he doesn't know who he is without Barbie or without the performative masculinity of Tendom to hide behind.
And here is where the story requires deep, deep nuance. It would be incredibly easy to simply cast Ken as a villain who gets his comeuppance. But his emotional realization is deeply tragic.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I have to say, isn't Ken's journey just as vital as Barbie's here?
I think so, yes.
I mean, they're both frantically untangling themselves from the exact roles they were literally manufactured to play. Ken was created to be an accessory. His box literally says Ken and Barbie. He has never had a standalone identity.
Absolutely. The narrative explicitly avoids painting either of them as completely right or entirely wrong. They are both victims of their design. Barbie was burdened with the impossible task of being the perfect ideal of womanhood, while Ken was burdened with the agonizing reality of being entirely superfluous.
Right.
Ken's adoption of the patriarchy was toxic, yes, but it stemmed from a desperate, unmet need for identity and self-worth. When Barbie tells him he has to figure out who he is without her, it is an act of profound grace.
It is.
He realizes his identity isn't tied to her gaze, nor is it tied to the hyper-masculine aesthetic he stole from the real world. He is just Ken. He has to learn to define his own individuality outside of the strict societal expectations assigned to him at his creation.
It's a beautiful moment of reconciliation.
Huh.
Barbie Land is restored, the Constitution is back in place, but it's not the exact same as before. The Barbies realize they can't just go back to ignoring the Kens. They have to build a more equitable society.
Yeah, new normal.
But for stereotypical Barbie, the restoration of her utopia isn't a happy ending. Because while Barbie Land has returned to its former glory, Barbie herself has outgrown it.
The existential spark we talked about at the beginning, it has fully caught fire. She has experienced the complexities of human emotion, the sting of tears, the warmth of empathy.
She can't unsee it.
She can no longer pretend that plastic perfection is enough. She has seen the edge of the universe, and she can't go back into the snow globe.
This realization leads her to her final, ultimate encounter. The creator arrives. Ruth Handler, the original inventor of Barbie, appears in Barbie Land. She is a warm, grandmotherly figure with a complex history of her own. Ruth takes Barbie by the hand, and they walk away from the bright, noisy reality of Barbie Land into a quiet, infinite white void.
It is a space of pure potential.
The meeting with the maker is the final threshold of her journey. Ruth tells Barbie that she doesn't need permission to become human. The creator cannot control the creation once it takes on a life of its own.
Which is such a powerful message about growing up.
But she warns Barbie of what humanity actually entails. She shows Barbie a montage of what it actually means to be a flesh and blood human being. The joy, the connection, the beauty, yes, but also the inevitable aging, the sickness, the heartbreak, the profound grief, and ultimately, death.
It is the ultimate choice between the infinite artificial and the finite real.
It is staggering when you think about it. Imagine this choice, listener. It's like leaving a perfectly calm, crystal clear, but tightly confined swimming pool to dive headfirst into a turbulent, unpredictable, and incredibly dangerous ocean.
It's terrifying.
Knowing everything she knows, having felt the pain and rejection of the real world, why would anyone willingly choose pain, aging, and mortality over eternal, painless perfection?
Because a flawless, infinite artificial life is ultimately empty. It lacks the very thing that gives existence weight and beauty. Impermanence. Ruth's montage shows that the fleeting nature of human life is exactly what makes the moments of joy so profound. Perfection is a stagnant pond. Humanity, with all its flaws, its messy emotions, and its inevitable ending, is a rushing river. By choosing to become human, Barbie is embracing imperfection as the ultimate act of self-discovery.
She wants the real thing.
She does. A flawed, finite human life holds more intrinsic value and true purpose because it is earned, it is felt, and it is real. She chooses to be the one imagining the meaning, rather than being the idea that is imagined by someone else.
And with a breath, she makes her choice. She closes her eyes as a perfect doll and opens them as a flawed, beautiful human. She steps into the real world, not as a plastic icon, not as an ideal, but as a mortal woman, ready to experience the beautiful, messy, terrifying reality of a finite life.
It's a remarkable conclusion to a deeply philosophical narrative. It leaves us with so much to unpack about our own lives.
We started this journey looking at a perfect doll in a flawless world, but what we found was a mirror reflecting our own complicated reality. Barbie is ultimately a story about the universal human struggle of becoming yourself. It's about stripping away the impossible expectations society places on us, whether those are expectations of perfection, of gender, or of purpose, and discovering that true self-worth is found in embracing our own flaws.
Beautifully said.
It leaves you with a lingering question to mull over. If a doll can realize that a painless, perfect utopia isn't actually living and choose to embrace the messy, painful reality of being human, what perfect little snow globes are you actively trapping yourself in just to avoid the friction of real life? You've been listening to Beyond the Plot. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. Until next time, go beyond the plot.